History is often written by the victors, but the darkest chapters of our past are not written in ink. They are written in silence. The silence of empty villages, the silence of cultures erased, and the silence of millions who vanished without a trace. Throughout human existence, we have built incredible civilizations, but we also possess a terrifying capacity for destruction. There are moments in time when violence became so widespread, so systematic, that the global population actually shrank. Historians call this democide, the murder of any person or people by their government, including genocide, politicide, and mass murder. Today, we are looking into the abyss. We will examine the deadliest events in human history, not just the battles, but the moments when humanity turned on itself. From the steppes of the 13th century to the killing fields of the modern era, these are the scars on the face of the earth. The wrath of the steppe, the Mongol Empire. Let's go back to the 13th century. This was an era when the world was much smaller and the population was fragile. In the heart of Asia, a force was gathering that would change the genetic and climatic map of the planet forever. The Mongol Empire, under Genghis Khan and his successors, launched the most extensive continuous land campaign in history. Their strategy was psychological warfare carried out with absolute brutality. The rule was simple: surrender and pay tribute, or face total annihilation. When the Mongols arrived at a city that refused to yield, they didn't just defeat the army, they dismantled the society. In the siege of Baghdad in 1258, it is said that the waters of the Tigris River ran black with ink from the destruction of the House of Wisdom's library, and then ran red with the blood of the city's inhabitants. Historians estimate that the Mongol conquests resulted in the deaths of approximately 40 million people. To the modern ear, 40 million is just a number, but you have to understand the context. In the 13th century, the world population was only around 360 to 400 million. That means the Mongols wiped out roughly 11% of the entire human race. To put that into a terrifying modern perspective, if a similar event happened today, based on our current population, it would be equivalent to the sudden death of nearly 800 million people. That is the entire population of Europe and North America combined, vanished in a storm of fire and steel. The scale of death was so massive that it actually triggered a man-made climate change event. Because so many people were killed and so many civilizations were erased, millions of acres of cultivated farmland returned to the wild. Forests grew back over the ruins. These new forests absorbed so much carbon dioxide from the atmosphere that it caused a measurable drop in global temperatures. It was the only time in history that mankind cooled the planet by extinguishing life. The heart of darkness, the Congo Free State. We often think of mass death as a result of war or ideology, but sometimes the cause is far more banal and therefore far more sinister. Sometimes the cause is simply greed. In the late 19th century, the world was hungry for a new resource: rubber. It was the oil of its day, essential for tires and hoses in the booming Industrial Revolution. Enter King Leopold II of Belgium. Through diplomatic manipulation, he managed to acquire the Congo Basin, not as a Belgian colony, but as his own private property. He named it, with cruel irony, the Congo Free State. What followed was a nightmare hidden beneath the canopy of the rainforest. To extract the maximum amount of rubber in the shortest amount of time, Leopold's private army enslaved the native population. The system was built on terror. Villages were given impossible rubber quotas to fill. If a man failed to bring in enough rubber, the punishment was often death. But the soldiers were required to account for every bullet they used, to prove they weren't wasting ammunition on hunting. So to prove a kill, they had to bring back the right hand of the victim. This policy created a grotesque economy. Baskets of severed hands became a currency of terror. Soldiers would cut off the hands of living people just to meet their quotas, or to cover up for missed shots. There are haunting photographs from this era, most notably of a father named Nsala sitting on a porch, staring in absolute despair at the severed hand and foot of his 5-year-old daughter. It is an image that captures the absolute loss of humanity. Estimates vary, But it is believed that up to 10 million Congolese died under Leopold's reign due to execution, starvation, overwork, and disease. That was approximately half of the region's population at the time. A demographic collapse driven entirely by the profit margins of a single company. Senarn, the Great Silence, the Great Leap Forward. As we move into the 20th century, the mechanisms of death became more modern, and the numbers became staggering. The single event with the highest death toll in human history occurred not on a battlefield, but in the countryside of China between 1958 and 1962. It was called the Great Leap Forward. Chairman Mao Zedong wanted to rapidly transform China from an agrarian economy into a communist industrial superpower. Farmers were forced into communes. They were ordered to stop farming and start producing steel in backyard furnaces. They melted down their pots, pans, and farm tools to produce useless, low-quality pig iron. At the same time, the government launched the Four Pests campaign, which included the extermination of sparrows. They believed sparrows ate too much grain. Millions of birds were killed. But nature has a delicate balance. Without the sparrows, the locust population exploded. The insects swarmed across the country, devouring what little crops were left. The combination of bad weather, labor diversion, and ecological disaster caused a famine of biblical proportions. But the tragedy was compounded by fear. Local officials, terrified of reporting failure to the central government, lied about their harvest numbers. They reported record-breaking surpluses while their people were starving to death. Because the government thought there was plenty of food, they continued to export grain to other countries to save face. The countryside fell silent. People died in their homes, on the roads, and in the fields. It is estimated that between 40 million and 70 million people perished. To grasp this number, the death toll of the Great Leap Forward is higher than the total military and civilian deaths of World War I combined. And yet, for decades, it remained a taboo subject, a massive void in the collective memory of the world. To the mechanics of genocide, the Holocaust, and Khmer Rouge. Finally, we must confront the most chilling form of mass murder, the systematic attempt to exterminate a specific group of people. The Holocaust, orchestrated by Nazi Germany, stands alone in history because of its industrial nature. It wasn't just a massacre, it was a factory process. The Nazis applied modern industrial principles, transportation logistics, record-keeping, and chemical engineering to the goal of human extermination. Between 1941 and 1945, approximately 11 million people were murdered, including 6 million Jews. They were dehumanized, numbered, and processed. It showed us that technological advancement does not guarantee moral advancement. A civilized, educated society is capable of building gas chambers just as easily as it builds bridges. However, if we look at the sheer intensity of destruction relative to population size, the darkest shadow falls over Cambodia. In 1975, the Khmer Rouge, led by Pol Pot, took control. Their goal was to reset the country to year zero. They wanted to create a purely agrarian, communist utopia by eliminating anyone connected to the old world. The criteria for execution were absurdly simple. If you spoke a foreign language, you died. If you had soft hands, implying you didn't do hard labor, you died. If you wore glasses, suggesting you could read, you died. In just 4 years, almost 2 million people were killed. While this number is smaller than the others we've discussed, it represented 25% of Cambodia's entire population. 1 in 4 people. It was an auto-genocide, a nation consuming itself. There is hardly a family in Cambodia today that did not lose a father, a mother, or a child to the killing fields. We recite these numbers, 40 million, 10 million, 6 million, but the human brain is not designed to comprehend such scale. As Joseph Stalin is infamously quoted as saying, "One death is a tragedy, a million is a statistic." But we must fight against that numbness. We must remember that every single digit in those millions represented a living, breathing human being. Someone with a favorite song, someone who fell in love, someone who was afraid of the dark. We study this dark history not to dwell on the horror, but to recognize the patterns, the dehumanization of the other, the blind obedience to authority, the sacrifice of human life for ideology or profit. These are the warning signs. The world we live in today, with its relative peace and stability, is fragile. It is a thin layer of ice over a deep, dark ocean. Remembering these events is the only thing that keeps the ice from cracking again. Which of these historical events do you find the most difficult to comprehend? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this video valuable, please like and subscribe to help us keep these stories alive. Thank you for watching.